You left school to go to university to read pharmacy. How come you ended up in a music career?
I wasn't like the greatest singer or the greatest dancer, so I was very fortunate to find beatboxing.
Midé, I know it's not that long ago that you left school, but it probably feels like a lifetime because you've done so much since then as a beatboxer and vocal percussionist. Recently on tour with Sons of Pitches. Notice I try to say that last word very carefully. How's that been going?
It's been an amazing 10 years now. Yeah, when I left school, I wanted to see what I could do with the beatboxing and whatnot, but I never thought it would take me to, where it has taken me. I've had an amazing time with Sons of Pitches, with all the other people that I've worked with, and I'm really grateful for the things I've managed to achieve.
You left school to go to university to read pharmacy. How come you ended up in a music career?
I think, I always wanted to at least complete the pharmacy. I was a scientist growing up, so I always knew I wanted to at least have that ticked off, but I know that there was a side of me that really loved or was in awe of entertainers, and I wanted to find a way into doing that, I guess. I wasn't like the greatest singer or the greatest dancer, so I was very fortunate to find beatboxing was something that was sought after at uni. And then, I joined the Acapella Society, joined the group, and the rest is history, I guess.
So when did you start kind of working on this beatboxing craft? Was it something that you started off during your childhood?
I think it was the summer holiday of year 11 going into A-levels at school. And that holiday, I think, is quite a long one after the exams. And I just remember seeing a YouTube video come up, someone was beatboxing and I wanted to know how to do it. So I just typed in how to do what this guy's doing. And I spent all of that summer up till 3 a.m. every night, disturbing my mum's peace. And then I think I tried again another school holiday, and then entered a couple of talent shows at school, which went better than I thought. And then I decided, I'm going to try and see where this takes me.
Midé, you mentioned talent competitions at school there, but since you left school, you've also taken part in like national competitions.
The most notable one is probably the Naike choir we did in 2015 with Gareth Malone, we being Sons of Pitches. And that was at a point where we'd done it for a couple of years. It was going okay, we were doing well on YouTube, but we didn't know if there was a longer term thing. So we kind of did that as a last chance saloon to see if we could take it a bit further. 3 of the guys, I think, had even started work because they're a bit older than me. They'd started their jobs, but they were living together in Birmingham so that we could all carry this on. And that show was amazing. We were obviously lucky enough to win that, and it gave us the exposure to kind of seek, management, an agent, a fan base. And from then on, we were able to tour, and we've been touring since. It's been amazing.
Midé, you have thousands of followers and millions of likes on TikTok. Your profile says God and music. Is that a fair reflection of what's important in your life?
Yeah, definitely. I think in terms of just, I guess, my time here on this planet, I feel like my purpose is slowly become I kind of just want to make people happy with whatever I'm doing. So with music, it's a lot of the time is a lot less for myself, and I try and make things that will be enjoyed by people, whether it's the beatboxing, whether it's production on TikTok or whatever. And I am every day very grateful to God. I believe in God. I'm a Christian. I'm grateful to God that this has all fallen in place, because the plans I had for my life when I was about 16 couldn't have been more different to where I've ended up. And I've ended up in a much better place than I think I would have had I not kind of trusted in Him and tried to live a good life.
What would those plans have been if you hadn't followed that different path?
Originally, I wanted to A, try and become a footballer, B, try and become a sprinter, C, become a doctor. And I was set on all of those things. And when it felt like they weren't coming to pass, I was getting very down and thinking, what am I actually going to become? Am I just going to kind of fall under the radar? No one really know who I am. And just do something or other at uni. But then I didn't even know about pharmacy being a degree until results day of A-levels. My mum just said it in passing. She was ironing. I'd tried calling up med schools. They'd all turned me down. And I said, okay, why not? And only because I chose the University of Birmingham was I able to go to that acapella society where I found the sons, and where I was able to balance the time of being, working through pharmacy, which I don't think I would have been able to do if I was actually doing medicine. And a very, very helpful faculty as well that supported me while I was there to kind of go and do the TV show whilst I still had coursework submissions. They gave me some extensions and whatnot. So I felt like everything just fell into place really, really well.
You mentioned there about when you were 16, not really knowing who you were. And I think something that really stands out to me about you is, even when I watch you on TikTok, and you're really funny, is that you seem to be really, lots of people talk about like trying to find their authentic self, but you seem to have really figured that out.
Yeah, I think it's something that it can take a lot of time for certain people based on their circumstances. I think for me, one facet of it is the fact that I've come from two Nigerian parents that have moved to the UK, to Cambridge, which is a very generally middle upper class white area. And I guess the various clashes that I experienced over time with the way life is outside of the house, inside of the house, the different cultures, the different music, the different taste in everything, and trying to find what I liked and being open with what I actually liked. And, growing up, as a teenager, you're trying to blend in with everybody. So all of that side from home, I wasn't really bringing to school. Equally, I wasn't bringing a lot of school home. So I felt like I was having a bit of a teenage identity crisis or whatever. And I think a lot of people in my position can relate to that. And then when I became a lot more, I guess, confident in the fact that, yes, I've grown up in Cambridge and I'm grateful for all of these things. And I've also grown up in a Nigerian household and I'm grateful for all these things. And I'm happy to bring them together and let everyone see the genuine me. I'm kind of done trying to keep up appearances here and there and just, be open that I'm a Nigerian in Cambridge and this is me. This is my experience. This is my life.
And that comes across in kind of everything about you that I see. So what would you say to those young people that are watching this now, and they are those people, feeling like you did when you were 16, maybe not too sure who they are, trying to work out their identity, be their authentic self? Or what does that really mean? Is it just a kind of phrase that's been overused? What would you say to them from what you've learned?
Yeah, I would say firstly that it does get easier, I think. And I believe for everyone, there are opportunities for you to show everyone who you actually are. I think school inevitably gives that pressure as teenagers, but you shouldn't think that there's no hope, that you're just going to be stuck in this. I'm like this here, I'm like this here. And I think, whether it's university or wherever you end up, as people generally grow up, I think everyone's a bit more accepting of difference, at least ideally. So, and especially in the kind of world we're in now, I think people are also just more accepting of that. So I wouldn't necessarily worry. I think do everything you can to embrace who you genuinely are. And as long as you're genuine, then everything you do or you put your time into won't feel as tasking, it won't feel as stressful, it won't feel as, you won't overthink things if you just be yourself.
I want to talk a bit more about your beatboxing now. Now, I have two kids and they're always asking Alexa to beatbox and trying to practice, and it brings such joy and fun to the family. I know that you've done workshops around the world with young people. How easy is it really to teach beatboxing and inspire young people to give it a go?
Yeah, the beatbox workshops, wherever we've done them, or the acapella ones, have all been incredible. And around the world, around demographics, ages, everything, it's always different. But the one thing that we do recognize is that music is the same everywhere. An understanding of music is the same everywhere. So, we've been to Hong Kong with the group and done workshops there. We've been to Switzerland in Switzerland, the English was pretty good, but in Hong Kong, there were some schools we went to where no one spoke a word of English. Last year, we even went to Thailand, did the same thing. No one spoke much English at all. However, singing stuff to people and they're able to sing it back and comprehend that, and music is its own language, really. So it makes it very fun for people that feel like they are maybe distanced from Western society. They feel like there's a barrier to it. I think music can break those kind of barriers.
And does it?
Yeah, I think it does. I think beatbox in particular does, because I think you can ask the other guys, they'd probably say the same, that there's often a stigma attached to singing for a lot of young people. They feel like they have to do it privately. So some people it's a bit lame. Whereas beatboxing, because it's not all that mainstream, I think it still surprises a lot of young people. I've noticed particularly with young boys who don't want to sing at all, but they hear beatboxing and go, wait, you know, they were trying to be cool a minute ago and now they're in shock that someone's making these kind of noises, and that gets them in, and they're usually quite attentive and receptive to it.
That's so interesting, because when I was at school, you know, we sung all the hymns in assemblies like every single day, and you were just brought up singing, and it was a part of your kind of culture and your life growing up. So you didn't really think singing wasn't like cool. But now kids don't really sing that much in school, and so when they do, I guess maybe it's when they're dragged along to an event where they have to sing, but it's not necessarily from their own kind of soul.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like there's the desire to, you know, sing in like a choir and things like that is maybe dwindling a little bit. But yeah, I think what in this acapella setting where there's beatbox involved as well, I think it's kind of bringing few more people on side.
I was reading about you developing your music production and kind of developing a new music genre, kind of Afro gospel. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to see where, you know, my passion for music would take me. Like I said, God and music. So I wanted to find a way, I guess, to give back to that side of my life. I never really wanted to be singing or performing or rapping about the typical things that, you know, some people sing or rap about. And I wanted to keep it at least lighthearted and ideally, you know, showing my gratitude for where I am up to right now. So I did end up producing and releasing one song. I have so many on the back burner that I've never actually released, but there was one that I managed to decide, you know, I'm just going to do it and I'm just going to see how it goes. And it kind of did all right. So I enjoyed doing that. And I'm hopefully in this next few months working alongside some other Christian artists in general, just to try and make some more, at least feel good music.
Midé, you're a really creative person. And I always think that to become a creative person during your childhood, you need to have been exposed to opportunities to be creative, you know, while your brain's developing. So whether that's through like imaginary play or through experimenting with songs and music, how was your childhood in terms of encouraging that creative spirit within you?
I think starting playing an instrument from a fairly early age was probably the main thing. I think in the other aspects of my childhood, I think, you know, I was always listening to music. Nigerians, we have a lot of parties. So I was probably attending a lot of parties, dancing earlier than I should have been dancing maybe. But in terms of me having an input or learning how creatives do things, I guess it was probably learning the piano. I was about 6 or 7 when I started learning to play the piano. So that was probably the first, I think that kind of unlocked my brain a bit to that side of things where you can, you know, you can embellish something that someone's already given you.
And then moving on from that, did you carry on with the piano?
I played piano until I was about 14, 15. So I did about 9 years of it. And then incidentally, it was, what was it? I had something on at school, I think, that made me miss a piano exam. And mentally, I signed out of it because I had to travel with school. But I did it for about 9 years. And whilst I don't really play the piano much anymore now, I use it a lot in production. I use it a lot in everything I'm doing. And I guess it's helped a lot with being in an acapella group. So I kind of understand music to that kind of scientific level a bit, which is really helpful.
You mentioned the family environment and your mum earlier. To what extent was she important in terms of like the person you are today and bringing you up and inspiring your music?
I think, to be honest, originally when it was clashing a lot at university, because in their eyes, you know, I went to uni to do pharmacy, it was kind of a, you know, I guess prove me wrong kind of thing. So she was always up for me doing it as long as I did well in it, because she kind of says, I think it even says in the Bible itself, in everything you do, try and do it well. So she kind of wanted me to make sure I was doing that, and it wasn't just doing things for the sake of them. It was, you know, try something, but, you know, try to almost make sure that you succeed to an extent. So that kind of always motivated me, that kind of mindset. And my mum has been such a hardworking person since I can remember. So I've never really seen her put a foot wrong, do things wrongly, do people wrong, anything like that. So I've always wanted to kind of reflect her and how she raised me in what I do as well.
What would you say to young people that can perhaps relate to some of those things that you were going through at that time, where maybe the path they want to follow doesn't quite align with other expectations, and how they kind of work that forward so that they can be who they really feel that they should be and want to be?
I guess, I've spoken to my mum a bit since then, and my aunts and uncles and whatnot. And I guess it's a natural feeling in parenting. As far I'm not a parent, but as far as I know, it's a natural feeling in parenting to want the best for your child, to want your child to go through life as safely as possible. But I think when I was at that age, I just felt like I felt like I was just being choked. But in hindsight, I know why my mum wanted me to, at least have my head screwed on enough to, get to uni, because I think maybe if I'd done it by myself, I might have messed up in school a bit for the sake of beatboxing. So I think the balance I got from, listening to my mum to an extent, but also, trying to find time here and there to pursue it, helped me. With passions, I think there always is time. I think as long as you make time for it, there's time. I don't think, at 16 there was no time for me to beatbox. My mum worked me hard with studying for pharmacy, and I found time to beatbox to the point that I'm where I'm at now. So I don't think it's a thing where, you're not going to be able to ever pursue your passion. I think you just have to find the time or make the time.
You are a great role model for young people, Midé. And what would you say to young people watching this or listening to our podcast who want to follow a career in music or in the creative industries, on the stage in some way? It's not an easy industry to get into.
I would say, firstly, it's, you need to kind of have a bit of a thick skin in the first place, because, rejection comes a lot along the way. There are a lot of people that will just, they'll turn you down like that. I tried Britain's Got Talent when I was in school, age 16, 17. The production team turned me down after like 1 minute of beatboxing, but a year later, I was on the Naike choir. And you have to kind of get used to those kind of rejections. And actually 2 years later, 3 years after that, I was on Britain's Got Talent again, but with Sons of Pictures. So you have to firstly, accept that not everyone's going to like what you do, but don't pander to what they expected of you. Just, if you believe in what you're doing, carry on doing it, and eventually, someone will pick you up. I promise you, if you do something and do it well, it will not take 30 years for someone to find it, especially in this day and age where we have TikTok, Instagram. It's a sacrifice. It requires a lot of time. And if you have a 9 to 5, then unfortunately in that 5 to 9, you're going to have to find some time to pursue your passion. Because there is an element of sacrifice to it. But yeah, I guess that's the main thing. Maybe also go and talk to people that have done it. I kind of say that with any profession, any line of work, any hustle, if you will. I'd say anything you want to do, find someone that's done it. It doesn't mean you're going to copy them. It just means it will save you some time trying to find a good route. And you'll also hear the truth, because social media won't tell you the truth.
Finally, we're asking everybody who comes on this podcast to share something that might inspire others, something you might have learned from your life. What would that be for you?
Make sure that your product represents you and doesn't represent what people expect of you. I think that's the main thing for me, because when I tell people about my background, they're less surprised now, because what I do does pretty much reflect how I've got here in the first place. And as long as you do that, I think, you'll grow a fan base that enjoys you, and you'll also just enjoy what you do more.
Can we finish off with some beatboxing then? Oh my goodness. Thank you.
You're welcome. No worries. No worries. Thank you so much. Thank you.